Hi, this is Angie with Greenstyle,
And I'm Savannah.
and we're gonna make up the cami tank. So we're gonna cut out the cami pieces, and usually your fabric is gonna be about 60 inches wide, 55 to 60 inches wide. And if you leave it cut on a fold with salvage edges together, there's a lot of empty space in here that's not gonna get cut on the fold, and you can waste some fabric. So when you're doing something with smaller pieces like this cami, you could just take it and refold it so there's just a little width, or just as much width as you need in order to fit those pieces in. And then you can fold again and go across the whole width of the fabric, and you will end up saving fabric that way. So it's a good option. So I actually just fold it over just barely enough, just barely the width of one of those pieces, and then I'll fold it again as I go across. Don't forget, don't cut off these little triangles. Those are there to help you line stuff up later. So just cut around those triangles. So after you get that first piece cut out, then you'll set it aside, refold your fabric. Again, just wide enough to cut the next piece out. Okay, so we've got our main pieces cut out of our main fabric, but in this particular case, I'm also gonna make the optional shelf bra, and I'm also gonna do the bra cup liner. So in the shelf bra, I'm gonna use a little lighter weight fabric. In this particular case, this is athletic brushed poly with in the 190 GSM. And so I'm gonna cut these pieces. This is the shelf bra front and the shelf bra back out of this athletic brushed poly. And then after I do that, I'm gonna make the liner too for a bra cup, so I can insert bra cups. So I'm gonna cut just this piece along this curved edge out of a fabric that we carry at Greenstyle, and it's called Mist, and it's a really, really buttery, soft, really lightweight fabric that feels like mist on your skin. So I'm gonna cut the optional bra liner out of Mist, and I'm gonna cut along this curved edge. That curved edge is gonna stay open, so you can slip the bra cups in and out of the cami when you want to wash it. And I'm gonna cut it with this. So now I'm gonna cut the optional bra cup liner out of the Mist, and you have to cut along that curved line. So you can either reprint this whole piece again, or an option is to just trim it enough to where you can kind of fold it back and leave it there. That's usually what I do. And then when you do want to use it again later, you can either retape it or just hold it out like that when you're not wanting to cut and use the optional bra cup liner. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna do, just to make this portion of it really easy on this bra cup liner, I'm just gonna serge the edge, that curved edge that we cut on the bra cup liner on both sides. So it's that curved edge. I'm gonna serge both sides, and then I'm just gonna turn it under and hem it with my sewing machine. But I think serging the edges first with this Mist makes it a little bit easier to sew it. Okay, so I'm just taking the edge that I serged and folding it under, and then stitching it with a zigzag stitch. I'm using a zigzag stitch so it stretches. It doesn't need a ton of stretch, but that'll work. All right, now we're going to take this bra cup liner and pin it to the bra cup that we cut, or the optional shelf bra that we cut. And we're gonna just baste along these upper edges right here, and you can baste around the bottom.
Mom, you're not supposed to sew over the pins.
I know, I'm just being
blind.
I mean, it's not good. You could definitely you could ruin your needle. You could break a pin, it could pop up and hit your eye. So you're right, you could go blind. All right, so again, if you are doing the bra cup liner, at this point, after you've basted these raw edges together, now you're gonna treat it just like one piece. So we're gonna continue on with the next step, and that is to sew the back to the front at the side seams.
Hi, Ollie. Ollie, say hi. Say hi, Ollie. Are you our sewing dog?
Sewing helper.
He helps all the time.
So when you do those side seams, just make sure that you don't catch this portion of the bra liner, the bra cup liner, in the side seams.
So now we're taking the front and the back and putting side seams together. Right sides together too. So you're just gonna pin along this edge and then along this edge and sew.
All this elastic. These little these little things are terrible. It all ended up all over the floor, I can imagine. So now we gotta roll it all up. Okay, so after you get your mess of elastic put back together, measure off a piece of elastic that, according to the chart. So there's a chart in the pattern, so you could do that. And then before you actually start sewing it to the bra, just put it around your rib cage, overlap it, and make sure that that feels like a comfortable length for you. You don't want it to be too tight or too loose. You just want it to be nice and firm and comfortable. So once you've decided you've got a great length that's going to go around your rib cage well, then you're going to overlap the pieces, and then you're going to sew to secure that, and then we're going to stitch it to the bottom edge of our shelf bra. All right, after you've stitched the elastic together, that's going to be your center back. So then you're going to want to mark center front. So I just take a little piece of chalk, mark center front, and then once you have that marked, you can mark 2 more sections. So I line center front up, mark that. So now you have this elastic kind of broken up into 4 equal sections, and we'll do the exact same thing for the bottom of the shelf bra. I've marked center front and center back, and I just clipped little V's in the shelf bra. And then we are going to, on the wrong side, attach the elastic, and we're gonna pin at all 4 of these locations that we just marked. So center back, center front, and the 2 side seams. All right, so now we're gonna sew that elastic to the shelf bra, and you just get it started, and then you kind of tug and pull up just enough for that elastic to fit in that opening from pin to pin. And you're gonna sew it directly to the edge. If you don't have a serger, you could do the exact same thing I'm doing, just use a zigzag stitch right along the edge. You've stitched the elastic onto the shelf bra along the edge, and we're going to go to your sewing machine or if you have a cover stitch, you can use that. And we're just gonna fold it under. Again, pull it to where everything is smooth and the elastic is pulled up and nice and smooth. And then also make sure that this elastic is right up against that folded edge, and not, for example, not like this where you've got extra fabric off of the edge. So you want to take and pull it up a little bit and keep that snug up across there. So after you have finished the elastic portion of the shelf bra, then you are going to make sure that your side seams of the main bodice piece face the seam allowance of the shelf bra, and the back is lined up with the back, like that. And then you're gonna slip that down inside, and we are gonna again line all of this up and baste across the upper edge and then all the way around these raw edges so the shelf bra is attached to the main bodice. All right, so now we're just gonna go through and baste across all this upper edge with our sewing machine, just to keep these pieces together. Right along the edge. And a long stitch, you can do a zigzag stitch or a straight stitch. I'm gonna go back later and pick out this long stitch. If you do like a long zigzag, you probably don't have to pick it out because it'll stretch. You can also use Wonder Tape if you like. I'm not sure if I have any Wonder Tape, but if I did, you can use that to kind of help hold the layers together. All right, next step after you've basted that shelf bra lining in there, and by the way, if you're not doing the shelf bra or the cup lining, you would skip straight ahead to just sewing the side seams and then this next step. So it does cut down a lot on your time if you're not adding that. So back to this, if you're at this point, the next thing you're gonna do is take the front neck binding piece and line up those notches. This is why it's important not to cut those notches off. Line up the center front, and then you're going to line up this edge.
Right sides together.
Oh, yes, Savannah reminded me. Right sides together. And then that should be just a little bit shorter. So as you sew, make sure you stretch the binding to take up that length, because you want the binding to be a little bit tighter and to kind of help hold all that in place. So we're gonna sew it with our serger, but if you don't have a serger, all you need to do is sew it with a zigzag stitch. Okay, so once you get it started at the very tip there, you can continue to sew and just make sure that you pull the binding up to match the distance that's left underneath on the main piece. So stretch that binding to fit. And don't forget your 3/8 inch seam allowance. All right, so after you've stitched that on, you're gonna take and fold. This is what's called a trifold, or some people call it a single fold binding. So instead of folding this twice and then over, we're just gonna enclose that seam allowance and fold it one time over that seam allowance, just like that. And then we're gonna stitch down the edge. So we're gonna top stitch it. So I'm gonna put plenty of clip. If you have clips, you can use clips. If you have pins, you can use pins. But it's just gonna be folded one time. This is a little bit less bulky of a method than if you do a double fold binding. It's just a little less bulk in the fabric. So we just fold it one time over to enclose that seam allowance. And we're gonna go up and use our cover stitch machine, but no worries, if you don't have a cover stitch machine, again, you can stitch it with a double needle, you can use a stretch stitch, or you can use a zigzag stitch right along the edge. Right now on the straps, make sure you mark the little circle spot on the strap. That's going to be placed at that point on the front. And then you're going to line up the seam of the back and strap binding together. You're going to line up the center back around to the other side seam and the seam on the back to the strap. And then again, line up the circle with the top of that. Okay, so we're gonna start the straps. And as you start the straps, you're gonna start at the very end of one of them, and you're gonna sew this clear elastic right along the edge of that strap. So when you serge it or you zigzag it all the way down, you don't have to stretch it. I don't want it stretched at this point. Just stitch down to the circle, or right when the bodice hits the front. And if you don't have clear elastic, you can use any kind of elastic. You can use that flat rubber elastic that's used in swimwear. So we're just gonna go to about right there. It doesn't have to be exact. You just wanna get it past that point where you cross over the front neckline banding. And then you're going to start, after you get past that point, you're gonna start to stretch from the circle marking to the side seams. Just stretch that out to fit as you come around that arm side. This is the other edge, the other side of the front arm side. And then again, we're gonna put in a piece of clear elastic. Starting about here, I'll start it, and then we'll go on up to the end. Again, just keep going right along the edge, and there's no need to stretch this elastic at this point. The elastic, it really can be optional. I just like it because it provides a little more support in the front and in the cami. But if you don't need the support, you can even skip the elastic. That's that. Okay, so now we're gonna prep and get ready to finish the straps and the binding, and then we're gonna go up and we're gonna use the cover stitch, but you could do the zigzag like we talked about, or a twin needle. So the clear elastic is serged or zigzag to that edge. You're gonna fold that up, and then you're gonna fold the raw edge over, and you can clip it or you can stitch it. So again, this is what I'm calling a tri-fold. So we fold and we fold. So there's just 3 layers versus the 4. And I'm actually going to top stitch it. So I'm gonna fold it, covering that. I'm gonna actually put my pins on the right side. Again, there, and fold. Use lots of clips or lots of pins to put it in place. And as you work your way around to the main bodice or the main part of the garment, it's just going to be the same thing. You're going to continue to do that tri-fold and clip or pin to hold all that in place. We're going to go around to the back or down the other side. Finished the binding and the straps. You're going to decide well, you probably should have already decided if you're doing the straight straps that come straight to the back, and you'll mark that, or the ones that come to the V, or the ones that crisscross. I chose the ones that come to a V or right up into the center point. So you're gonna just mark, and you need to have somebody help you, or you can try it on, but just mark where that center point is. I happen to know that this strap is the exact length that I need, so I'm gonna pin it there, and then I'm gonna go back with my sewing machine on the top side and first baste those into place, and then I try it on one more time, and then after I know it's perfect, I'll go back and stitch it again. And that's it. That's all you gotta do. It's pretty quick and easy. You can slip your bra cups now inside there if you want. You can have your strap any way you want. I've chosen the V. You can crisscross it or go straight back. And that's that. This particular length is the waist length. I think on my next one, I'm gonna do the full length just to do something a little bit different, but that's it.